What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. Back with another Epic Collection review. If you've watched the channel, you know I'm going through pretty much all of Marvel's Epic Collections. I'm trying to catch up as fast as possible. This is the 75th Epic Collection I've read. There are currently 203 out. I'm trying to catch up. But it's hard. They're coming out with one every week. So this is what we got. This is Master of Kung Fu Volume 2. And I wanted to catch up on this series because Volume 3 has been solicited. There's going to be a movie. I just want to know Shang-Chi as much as I possibly can. Volume's called Fight Without Pity. They don't actually put the volume numbers anywhere except for the back. So you don't have to worry about it. You can just pick this up and enjoy it. And this is a pretty complete one that you can kind of pick up and understand just from its own deal, but of course Volume 1's got the origin and all that. 1975 to 1977 is the years, and it covers Master of Kung Fu number 29 through 53 and Annual number 1. So a really good chunk of this era. Now, this entire book is written by Doug Mensch, who I knew from Batman fame. And Paul Gulacy, I believe is how you pronounce his name, I hope so, is the artist, and he's on pretty much all of it. It's got Sal Buscema doing an annual, and Keith Pollard and Jim Craig do the last couple issues after he, I guess, departs the title, maybe he just needed a break. I don't know, I'll find out when I get Volume 3. So they say that this is a drastic new departure for Shang-Chi's story, and he's going to be changing the way he does things at this point. And he does. The first volume was really a lot about him fighting his sister and his father, Fu Manchu, who is evil and, you know, world dominating, that type of deal. And on this one, really, Shang-Chi just goes on a bunch of missions for MI6. And it starts out with this one where he ends up at some private island, and I think he ends up at a private island like 3 times over the course of this. So plots get recycled a little bit. He fights this villain called Razor Fist, who literally has razors for fists. Nothing to do with the Razor Fist YouTube channel. Just a guy with razors for fists. And he's mostly on his own at the beginning here. He's got a couple of supporting characters, but they start to come in a lot later. What I do note is that Doug Mensch really uses so much dialogue, and it kind of detracts from the story a little bit. I didn't have this problem so much in Volume 1 when I read this, but for this one, it felt like a slog to get through some of these. And, you know, when you've got Kung Fu guy fighting Razor Fist, you don't really need all that much dialogue to go through it. Some of the poses are awkward. Some of the way that he's drawn isn't quite as consistent throughout all of this. It's okay. And again, this is another awkward looking kind of pose. I'm not even sure what that would accomplish in the middle of the fight there. But there it is as he's fighting the guy with literal razors for fists on the island. And eventually they escape, do their thing. Most of these arcs are over 2 or 3 issues, I notice. And that's that. So, back at sea, he has problems on the ship, and there's lots of like double agent sort of things going on here. People who he thought were the agent are supposed to, are really actually a bad guy, and etc. And I believe now he gets introduced in this issue to this gal, Leiko. So it starts off, there's another agent who's like, he's gone rogue and he builds robots and stuff like that. And we get this gal, Leiko. Here we are. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, Leiko. Again, I just am not super fond of the art, maybe. Some of the way these figures are drawn. And again, look at the dialogue info dump. So Mensch does this a lot. Like, here's where he's explaining what the mission is. And holy crud, that's a novel. So a little rough on that edge, but they're going to go chase after this guy who's a double agent, who's got his own island, just like the last Stone Island. But this one's like a toy island where he's got all these little different toys and all that. And Leiko, it turns out, is kind of a double agent in a way. She's in love with the guy who defected, and she was dating a different agent who's working with Shang-Chi before that. But she's also got a little crush on Shang-Chi now, and she's put in a James Bond villain device where it's like a sand thing that's going to crush her in sand. So it's really cheesy. And then it turns out there's this woman who's kind of involved in all this too, who just stands around half naked, which I don't mind the cheesecake stuff, but I don't know. None of this really flowed very well for me, like I said. So it was a slog for me to get through. Here's some of the villain's creations. Apparently he died. He had a plot to do something with the ozone layer and turn the ozone layer into a laser to kill people. It was kind of stupid. It's pretty 70s James Bond. If you want a 70s James Bond in all of its cheesiness, you're gonna love this. I just thought the dialogue was a little too heavy over the course of this. When he gets back, he gets caught up with this like sort of ninja assassin plot, where this like ancient one, who's not the same ancient one as Doctor Strange Ancient One, takes him into this like circus where it's a bunch of like strange creatures, and then he has to defend them from evil. But again, same problem with the art layouts, with the figures being stiff and weird at points, with too much dialogue just cluttering over everything. And, you know, I'm a proponent of the Silver Age. I really, you know, it's not an era thing for me so much. It's just, does the dialogue matter? Does it stir me? Does the character feel like he's developing and actually somebody I'm connecting to? And that just wasn't the case here. And it's because of the strange MI6 plots. I think that just didn't work for me too, because we had this really nice setup before where there was a lot of familial drama with the sister and Fu Manchu and all that. And then we get into this. All these plots are so impersonal compared to what it was in the first volume that you don't connect to Shang-Chi as much. He's really not really, I don't know. Not really, how do I describe this? Not as much somebody to care about, I guess, as a main character. This one was a fun one. I actually like this annual a lot. Keith Pollard did the art. Maybe I like Keith Pollard's art a little more, too. I think that might change things, because he has a little more consistent figures that flow a little better in the action here. But this is a team-up with Iron Fist, and they end up going into some really weird dimension and are taken there, and they're claiming that there's a threat going on to Iron Fist's, like, you know, dimension he went to get his kung fu powers originally. And it turns out the guy who brought them in was actually trapping them. And so they have a nice little fantasy adventure there. And I like that a little better than the MI6 stuff. All right. So back to the MI6 stuff. We're back here. And back to Paul Gulacy's art, which again, just doesn't do it for me like the other stuff did. And as this kind of goes over the course of things, we're having more double agents go on. We're having more drama within the MI6 kind of going on around Shang-Chi. And Shang-Chi's just trying to navigate his way through it for the most part. Figure out who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. He's trying to develop his own moral code as he's getting fed up with going on these missions on behalf of MI6. And yet, he still does. Every time. We have a new villain here called Shockwave, who's, again, one of these sort of double agenty types who... like I said, the plots kind of get recycled over the course of this, and the character tropes get recycled over the course of this. And then, eventually, though, we learn that there's this gal who is Agent D, who they've been talking up for a while, and she was the mistress of Fu Lang, but apparently she's coming back and, quote, helping them. And then, at this point, he gets back to the deal. And so they're sent on a mission, and they go into, and they get chased by spies, of course, trying to make it back. And Shang-Chi gets wrapped up in this plot where his sister's back. She wants to get this, like, immortality and steal some giant oyster thing from her father. Her father, meanwhile, we learn, is building some plot to take over the world. So So at least we've got the familial drama back, and Shang-Chi has a rivalry built with this agent who, like, because Leiko loves him, and he's kind of bitter and jealous about it, so we're wondering how that kind of goes. So the personal drama amps up a little bit here, but it's kind of too late for me. I was just like, man, when's this going to be over? By this point, I didn't... we get into a 6-part plot, and it gets ridiculous again with the strange James Bond-y villains of, like, you know, we had the ozone layer issue before. We had the multiple private islands. Now we're going into the Arctic, where there's a secret city base under the Arctic, which is kind of like a private island, I guess. Kind of reskinned. But it's actually a 6-part drama, so this is unusual for the time, storytelling-wise. You get these guys with jetpacks going after Shang-Chi. And they break into this, into Fu Manchu's fortress. And this is a nice sequence. I did like this sequence of art where we kind of see the action going on before we get into the city under the Arctic. And we learn that Fu Manchu is going to try to take over the world, but in a different way, in a dastardly James Bond villain kind of way, where he's going to destroy most of the population of the world by blowing up the moon and then try to rule over the remnants afterwards. It's a very bizarre kind of forced plot. He's also used some immortality thing from this giant pearl of an oyster, which Shang-Chi's sister was also after, to resurrect one of his ancestors, who he now calls his son also. Pretty cool character design here. I can't really... There we go. To fight Shang-Chi. And they do so. And they fall into a pit of scorpions. I mean, there's every over-the-top sort of cliche thing in the book in here. Again, I think I don't mind the concept so much. I just would like a little more personal drama to the dialogue, and a little, probably less dialogue. And I think I just want a different art that feels like it's a little less stiff through here also. But eventually they go up to the moon base. And amazingly, they know how to pilot rockets and go up to the moon base, where Fu Manchu's got his girl up there, of course, on the moon. It's not a moon base. It's like a space station surrounding the moon. And they're about to launch their nuclear bombs to destroy all of humanity. And he gets his final confrontation with his ancestor/brother thing, who's falling apart because he needs some extra elixir to stay alive. And now he's just basically a skeleton. And Shang-Chi disposes of him, and then actually shoots Fu Manchu. And then it kind of ends as they rocket off. And so you get an epilogue. This is the epilogue, I believe. Is it? Yeah. Where they kind of show they're going back to Earth. They show the death of the agent who died through this. It wasn't all that impactful for me, to be honest. It kind of resolves the Leiko triangle drama because there's no triangle anymore. And as they go back, Shang-Chi says, I'm not going to fight for you anymore, Nayland, who's the MI6 main guy, the old guy. And they get attacked anyway. But they walk out the door, and that's that. And you'd think that's that. So we get a filler issue after this, which brings back this character here from, I believe it was the king-sized number 3 with Keith Pollard on the art, which again I like a little better. It flows a little better. I forget his name. It's something ridiculous. What's his name? They say it multiple times through here. He has a ridiculous name, and he's a cab driver who's just silly and wants to take credit for everything type of thing. I think they say his name at the end here. There we go. Hackstabber, right. His name's Hack Grabber. There we go. Very bizarre. But for some reason, Shang-Chi is in Morocco, and it actually states in the dialogue that he was sent by Nayland Smith to look for agents of his father here, but he just quit and said he's not going to be going on missions for him anymore at the issue before, and there's no real explanation of that. That's why I was like, this must have been like a stock issue they kind of threw in here. And I think they were looking for a new artist or or something got behind or something, because again, we've got a different artist here. And what happens in issue 53 is they actually reprint issue number 20. So they just give you the cover of issue 53 in this. So it looks like a period of transition for the book where they kind of don't know what they're doing next. And so they brought this out. I'm going to guess it's a stock issue of some sort. Because again, the reference to the old characters, they bring in another old character from here. And this is a weird deal. So apparently this guy is the cousin of the cab driver here. And he's got a daughter who's, of course, a smoke show belly dancer. And he's creeping on her, which is, I guess, his second cousin. I don't know. I don't want to think too hard on that. But yeah, they bring back from the giant size number 4, Tiger Claw, who has literal tiger claws as hands. Much like Razor Fist at the beginning, who has literal Razor Fist as hands. And, of course, you get a knockdown, drag out kung fu fight. They're looking for an item, which the belly dancer girl sold and don't want it to fall into the wrong hands. And Shang-Chi's thinking he's coming after his father's goons. So he is happy to do the fight. It turns out that he's kind of upset because he thought he wasted his time because it wasn't his father's. It was just this tiger claw. And so he leaves, and then Cabby Dude creeps on his second cousin to end the book. Very weird. But actually, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this issue probably more than... I guess my favorite was the Iron Fist crossover with the annual. But other than that, this was probably my favorite issue out of the whole deal because it did reference a character from the past you didn't expect to come back. Maybe it's the art style. I just like it a little bit better. I don't know. But it also just felt a little more natural for Shang-Chi to be just doing something and not having that whole MI6 plot going on with it maybe too. So, like I said, issue 53 has a reprint, and there's the cover, and then you get a couple pages of extras in the back, and that's that. I really struggled to get through this, guys. This was a tough one for me. I really enjoyed the first volume quite a bit, and then this one not so much. So we'll see where it goes after this. They've got the sort of the cat on here, which was a villain they put in. But overall, I mean, Paul Gulacy's art just doesn't do it for me. Doug Mensch, I usually really like, so this is an anomaly for me. But this is a little bit below average for me, so I'm going to rate this one a 6.5 out of 10. It did have pretty good pulp concepts, and I did like bringing back the Fu Manchu thing at the end. I really hope the next volume pushes him away from that MI6 stuff and kind of gives him a little more of his own identity, rather than being, Asian James Bond. All right. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.